So, the next eon in our geological timescale of our planet was known as the Proterozoic Eon. This eon took place about 2.5 billion years ago to about 541 million years ago. So about 2 billion years it lasted. And from where we left off in the Archean, Earth is a ball of ice, and the cyanobacteria are just barely surviving. We don't know how they survived, but they did survive. Just barely, though. They take such a hit that it's considered to be Earth's first mass extinction. And these are defined as when 75% or more life is wiped out. And yeah, that's a pretty big hit. The Earth sat there in space as a big old ice ball for about 2 million years. And this was called the Huronian glaciation. But something good is coming. Change is coming. This is the presence of the world's first eukaryotes. There's a big debate as to when these little guys first popped up, but seeing how the cyanobacteria didn't go extinct, something would have had to start taking in all the excess oxygen, which would cause our planet to warm up, you know. Following the Huronian glaciation, scientists call this time the boring billion. And if you don't know why, I'm sure you can guess why. Uh, Once all that ice had melted, what was left was just a nutrient deprived world that did nothing really for like a billion years. About 1.8 billion years ago, the O2 levels dropped, which allowed our boys, the cyanobacteria, to come back better than ever, stronger than ever. But the new guys on the block, the eukaryotes, seem to be more adaptive because they're able to split up into three different groups. Well, three main different groups. One group would be similar to the cyanobacteria in that they get their energy from the sun through a process called photosynthesis. I mean, there is no competition for that energy source, so it makes sense to do that. Another would start breaking down the nutrients left inside the cells of dead organisms to get their energy. And the third group would get their energy by consuming other organisms. This was the start of the three main kingdoms of multi-cellular eukaryotes: plant, fungi, animals. There you go. These were the first versions of each. So these eukaryotes became much more diverse than the cyanobacteria did. Now, these microbes release methane, which in turn probably made the ocean much warmer than what it is today. Because of that, the green goose second reign of dominance was only growing. And what happened the first time, sure enough, happened again. But this time, the O2 that they were farting out was being gobbled up by the first animals who then released it as CO2. And roughly 760 million years ago, it finally happened. The very first animal pops up in the fossil records. And do you know what it was? This guy, a freaking sponge. Who knew SpongeBob was like literally the very first animal to ever live on this planet? At least as far as we know. It was called Otavia, and although they lacked a digestive, circulatory, and nervous system like today, they still do, they're still considered to be more animal-like than fungi or plant. But as the cyanobacteria were growing in numbers much faster than the eukaryotes, the Earth drastically cooled into another ice ball. Yeah, it happened again. This was called the Cryogenian period, and it lasted nearly 100 million years. Apparently, during that 100 million years, the planet was constantly freezing and thawing just over and over. This actually spelled the end of the cyanobacteria's second reign and their last reign of terror on Earth. They wouldn't go extinct, they're still around today, but they're not the top dogs anymore. But somehow, the eukaryotes survived the Cryogenian and were ready to become the top dogs of our planet. As for the first time, there's an actual ecosystem on the ocean floor. Things like Spragina popped up during this time, and although it was very small, it looked eerily similar to a future dominant predator that we'll get in a future video. And although it was all very small and simple, right? All life was at that time, everything was soft-bodied, and most of they didn't have a brain, but it was the most complex life had gotten up to that point. And this eon is also defined by the massive amount of tectonic plates that were moving around during this time. Several small land masses had popped up during this eon. They quite literally kept bumping into one another and breaking apart. Um, but by 1 billion years ago, the supercontinent Rodinia had formed, and it was by far the biggest Earth had ever seen up to that point. And that's where we are at. We have already progressed about 4 billion years with the first 3 eons, and we're just chilling at the moment. Now, as we enter the Phanerozoic Eon, our current eon that we're living in, I will not be able to cover this eon in one video. There's just way too much that I want to talk about, and I'm not about to make an hour-long video. I will end my existence. So from here on out, I will talk about each period individually for each video in this series, from the Cambrian and the Permian and the Triassic, blah, blah, blah. You get it. Just 541 million years to go. The first billion years flew by like nothing. But this next 541 million years, it's gonna take a while to get through. It's like the last 30 seconds of a college football game or something. Yeah, for real. The next 541 million years, it's gonna take longer to talk about than the first 4 billion years or whatever. Anyways, I hope you did enjoy. Like and subscribe if you did. Leave a comment of what you thought and hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all the great stuff. I truly do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great day. Peace.